Hello guys, you're welcome back to Slick Academics, and today we shall be kicking off by starting with the kingdom Animalia. But a little throwback to the kingdoms that we've treated initially. We have gone through kingdom Monera, kingdom Protista, kingdom Fungi, and kingdom Plantae. So lastly we shall be treating kingdom Animalia. So we'll kick off with the general characteristics of kingdom Animalia. First is they are multicellular organisms whose cells have no cell walls or chloroplast, meaning they cannot manufacture their own food because they lack chloroplast, so they are heterotrophs. That's what the second option says there. They are heterotrophic organisms. That means they cannot manufacture their own food, so they are depending either directly or indirectly on plants. And the third one, they can move their bodies from one place to another, unlike the plants that can move only parts of their body, and the animal can move their whole bodies from one point A to another point B. Now, some primitive animals have sac-like bodies with a single opening. So this opening serves as both the mouth and the anus, in which they ingest and also eject materials, which leads to the gut cavity. While majority of animals have a tubular body now, and with advancements in evolution, animals began to become tubular in nature, so they now have a distinct mouth and a distinct anus. Then we have some animals have asymmetrical bodies, while some are bilaterally symmetrical. So asymmetrical bodies, such animals, you cannot get two equal identical halves by cutting in any plane, so you can't get any two equal identical halves. While bilateral symmetry, you can cut in a particular plane and you will get identical halves. And the sixth one is they have nervous systems, so they are sensitive to their surroundings. Obviously, every living thing must be sensitive to their surroundings. Now, the seventh one is that most animals are coelomates, while some are either acoelomates or pseudocoelomates. Now, what is coelomates, acoelomate, and pseudocoelom? Now, for the coelomates, it simply means that they are lined fully by mesoderm. It simply means that they have enough space for organs within the body to actually increase and develop in size, while acoelomates are not lined at all by mesoderm, so they don't have this sort of space that you can find in coelomates. So that's why most acoelomates are always small in size. Then pseudocoelomates are partially lined by mesoderm, so they have spaces but not as much as organisms that have true body cavity. And animals are put in two major groups. The first group is the invertebrates, which we also call invertebrata, that is animals without backbone. And the second group are the vertebrates, which is also referred to as vertebrata, and these are animals with backbone. But we shall moving on to look at the invertebrates. Now, invertebrata, we have like 28 invertebrate phyla, but we're going to be looking at only 8 phyla. So the first one is the phylum porifera. Now, they live in colonies. That means they live together. As you can see on the screen, they are living together as a colony, and they are mostly hollow filter feeders. So they are mostly filter feeders that filter off materials from the aquatic environment in order to have access to their food. And they are simple aquatic invertebrates. They do not move around but are attached to rocks or shells. But the funny thing is that their larval stage is usually motile. When we talk about motility, we mean they can actually move, but as they grow into adult sponges, they now become immotile. That means they no longer be able to move, but rather attached to rocks or shells. They are primitive multicellular animals with asymmetrical body. So one, they are primitive. That's one of the earliest phyla under the invertebrates animals. And also they are asymmetrical. Remember, we mentioned that asymmetry is any organism that you can cut in any plane to get identical halves. And sponges reproduce both sexually and asexually, and most are hermaphrodites. Hermaphrodites are organisms that have both male and female sex cells in one individual. Now we have phylum Coelentrata, also known as the Cnidarians. Now, the cnidarians, they have soft bodies with a ring of tentacles for capturing prey. So these tentacles can be used to actually shock or sting their prey in order to be able to weaken it and capture it. Now, the coelentrates are aquatic animals, and this includes the hydra, the sea anemone, the jellyfish, and the coral polyps. And their body is radially symmetrical. So as long as you're cutting from a plane that is moving through the center, you are likely to get two identical halves. That's what radial symmetry means here. And they reproduce asexually by producing outgrowth from their body walls, and these outgrowths are known as buds. So the process of producing these outgrowths is known as budding. So they also reproduce sexually by producing male and female gametes. Well, hydra is always hermaphroditic. That means they have both male and female in one organism, while the jellyfish is not a hermaphrodite. So you have these different sexes in different organisms. Now we have most coelentrates have two body forms in their life cycle. We have the hydropolyp, which is always stationary, and then we have the free swimming umbrella shaped medusa. This can be seen here. We have the jellyfish, the sea anemone, and then the coral polyps. These are examples of the cnidarians or the coelentrata. And also here we have the hydra. Here the hydra has a single opening through which it takes in food. So it's actually a primitive phylum. Then we have phylum platyhelminthes, or what we call the flatworms. So under here we have like three classes. The Turbellaria, which we have under the Turbellaria, class Turbellaria, we have planarians. And then we have class Trematoda. Under the class Trematoda, we have the liver fluke, or what we call the Phyla hepatica. Then we have the class Cestoda, which is also known as the tapeworm. Under the class Cestoda, we find the tapeworm. The tapeworm, either the beef tapeworm known as Taenia saginata or the pork tapeworm known as the Taenia solium. Then we have general characteristics for the phylum platyhelminthes. We have it is made up of flatworms such as planaria, flukes, and tapeworms, and they are bilaterally symmetrical with a definite head and a tail end. So you can pause this video and go back and answer the question what we mean by an organism having bilateral symmetry. We explained it earlier, and let's see if you can remember it. Okay, so if you have done that, remember we said that bilateral symmetry is any organism that has this sort of body form can actually be divided in a particular plane to get two identical halves. Now they have flattened bodies, which is obviously why they are called flatworms, with a mouth but no anus, and their body cavity, and they have no body cavity, so they are acoelomates and rely on diffusion for everything. And they are hermaphrodites. Remember we said hermaphrodites, finding male and female in one individual. Such an individual is known as a hermaphrodite. And they have organs and systems, including nervous system with a simple brain and sense organs, muscle systems, digestive systems, and excretory systems. They live in the guts of other animals as parasites, as in the case of maybe tapeworm, or free living in freshwater, as is the case of planaria. Flatworms are parasites in humans and domestic animals, causing serious illness, and their life cycle is always complicated. So this is a typical diagram of a tapeworm, where we have the head of the tapeworm, the bodies. So you can see from the diagram the head is known as the scolex, and it has a rostelium and a hook and suckers. This helps you to attach to this guts of the host, and then whether the host is moving, it will be able to still be attached to the gut and then acquire much food through diffusion. Okay, so you can see that the immature proglottid can be found very close to the neck, and then as you move towards the tail end, we have the mature proglottid. This proglottid is where the sex cells can be found, and which helps in propagation for the tapeworm. Now we move on to phylum Nematoda, or what we call the roundworms. They are cylindrical in nature, so that's why we refer to them as roundworms, and they have bilateral symmetry. And they live as parasites in plants and animals, or can be free living in soil or water. They do not have circulatory system, but they do have a complete digestive system with both mouth and anus. Remember, if we go back to the platyhelminthes or the flatworms, they have a mouth but lack an anus. But in the case of the roundworms now, we now have a mouth and an anus. Now, the roundworms reproduce sexually. They are not hermaphrodites, right? So the different sexes are found in different organisms. Now, the roundworm has a false body cavity, and here they are partially lined by mesoderm. All right, so we have the phylum contains many important parasites such as the Ascaris lumbricoides, which infects the guts of humans, and we also have the filaridae, which causes elephantiasis. Now, this is a typical example of Ascaris lumbricoides with distinct male and female organisms. And then we move on to the next one, which is phylum annelida, and it is also known as the segmented worms. Now, we have three classes we shall be looking at here. We have the polychaetes, that is what we have under the polychaetes, we have sea worm, and then class oligochaetes, we have the earthworm, which is quite popular around here in Africa, in Nigeria, and then we have class Horidinia, which is the leech. Let's look at their general characteristics. They are segmented worms with long cylindrical bodies. They have true body cavities, so they are fully lined by mesoderm. Remember, the previous one is actually a pseudocoelom, but in the case of the roundworm, the segmented worms here, they have full true body cavity, or they are coelomates. Now, an annelid has well-developed nervous system and circulatory system, and they have what we call closed blood circulatory system. That means their blood do not come in contact with every other part of the cell, rather they are moved within vessels. And they are hermaphrodites, though some can be male or female. They have brittle-like structure we call chetae to help them move, and they are found in moist soil and water. Most of them are free living. Okay, now this is a typical example of the tapeworm, the earthworm here. So the earthworm, which is quite popular around here. And then we have phylum mollusca. We have class gastropoda, which includes the snail. We have class pelecypoda, which includes the mussels, and class cephalopoda, which includes the octopus. Let us look at the general characteristics here. Now, the first one is about half of the mollusks are marine animals, and the rest can be found on freshwater or land. Example is the snail, mussels, oysters, octopus, and squids. So these are examples of mollusca. And a mollusk has a soft, unsegmented body with a muscular foot, which may be adapted for crawling, burrowing, or swimming. Now, a mollusk carries out gaseous exchange through gills, obviously because it can be found in water or in lungs, which can be found in the mountain. In this case, we have the snail, which can be found on land, and they reproduce sexually. The sexes are usually different, so majority of them are not hermaphroditic in nature. So these are examples of the snail. This is a typical diagram of the snail, the octopus, and then of course the mussels. Now we have phylum echinodermata. Now let's look at the general characteristics of the echinoderms. Now they have no head, brain, and is not segmented. They are slow-moving marine animals on the seashores and seabirds. It has a unique system of water canal and numerous tube feet for moving about. Now, an echinoderm has a radially symmetrical body with the body parts arranged around a concentric or central mouth and anus. Now, remember what we said about the radial symmetry. This is the body form of an organism where you cut along a plane that goes through the center to get two identical halves. Now, the adult has 5 arms, but the larval stage does not. Now, this phylum include the sea urchin, the starfish, and the brittle star. So let's look at and see. So this is a sea urchin, the brittle star, and the starfish, as you can see on the screen. Now we have the 8th phyla, which is phylum Arthropoda, one of the largest in, or if not the largest in, the animal kingdom. Now we have class Crustacea, which includes the prawns. We have class Insecta, which includes the housefly, that's the insects. We have class Myriapoda, which includes the centipede, the millipede. Then we also have class Arachnida, which includes the spider and even the scorpion. So let's look at the general characteristics of the arthropoda. It is the largest in the animal kingdom. Arthropods have segmented bodies enclosed within a rigid exoskeleton that is made up of chitin. And in most arthropods, the segments are grouped to form a head, a thorax, and an abdomen. The first part is the head. The one that follows the head is the thorax, and then the last part is the abdomen. And each segment usually bears a pair of jointed appendages, which may be used for appendages here are more like attachments. Let's call it extra attachments, which could be used for feeding, that's the mouth parts, or for moving about, maybe the legs, the sense organs, and then for reproduction. Now, they have specialized digestive system, specialized respiratory system for different habitats, such as the trachea for terrestrial species and gills for aquatic ones. So depending on their location, depending on their habitat, their systems are specialized to help them adapt to their environment. Like for respiration in water, they make use of gills, and for those of them found on terrestrial environment, they make use of trachea. And they have well-developed sensory organs. Example, they have eyes, either the simple and compound eyes and the antenna. And they shed their exoskeletons at intervals to allow them to grow or increase in size. This is known as molting or ecdysis. Arthropods also have different sexes, so they are not hermaphrodites. They are different sexes. The male and the female are separate individuals.